Yes, everybody, welcome back to the Irish Hotspur. Jack and Dave here, providing you guys the very anticipated, the always looked forward to keep, loan, and sell. So many guys we got to get through. Feels like we're still being haunted by some of the players from the past of Steve Hitchin that we got to find a place for. But Dave, before we get into this one, how you doing? Keep, loan, sell. We got to do it every summer. It's that kind of real sign of the summer. It's like you hear the first signs of the ice cream truck, passing by. It's a similar
Mm.
thing for football when you hear the keep, loan, sell videos coming out. It's the know it's summertime.
Do you know what, Jack? I'm excited because hopefully this summer we'll finally get the squad overhaul that we've been looking for quite some time, or at least we'll get closer to completing it. So I'm excited for this one, Jack. Plenty to discuss.
I feel like we've said that to each other the last three keep, loan, sells that we've been doing over these years, but we'll keep it moving. We'll keep it going. I'll bring it up on screen here for you guys. And as always, please follow along, hit the like button as well, in the comments as well. Let us know your thoughts on any of the selections that we make. If you disagree or anything like that, please let us know. But let's get into it. Alejo Valise, Dave. What do you think? I think it's a loan. Very obvious, right? Just keep developing him. I wonder if you had any thoughts on my suggestion of maybe an easier league where he would be guaranteed lots of playing time, can get the confidence since he's only so young, right? It's not really about, putting
Mm.
him through, the top leagues around Europe yet. What if you put him in like a Eredivisie? I know it's not a perfect league, but I think, Parrott did well out there, got
Mm.
maybe a permanent move, maybe out of it. What if you did something for Lejo Valise to help develop him, get some confidence?
No, I definitely think he'll need another loan move, Jack. I actually feel sorry for him what's gone on this season. I think the idea would have been keeping him around Tottenham, only that Dane Scarlett came back from loan and that we couldn't loan him out to another club due to rules and how many clubs you can play for in one season. So we ended up allowing Leo Felice to go out on loan. However, he was sort of used as a pawn in the game at Sevilla. The board brought him in for the manager to use, and the manager wouldn't use him because it wasn't the striker that he wanted. So I feel sorry for him. And ultimately, he went out to Sevilla for nothing. He didn't learn anything, got barely any game time. He would have been better off staying around at Tottenham. But I do think this season we need to get him out on loan and let him develop.
Brian Hill, sadly, a sell. I think, Dave, I think it's finally time to cash in. You can't do a loan because he was so expensive for what we brought him in for. The only reason you maybe do it is so that if he does well enough at a club, that they would then trigger a buy option or something like that, let's say. But yeah, it's more of a loan to buy, but ultimately it's like a sell for me.
Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friend. In the famous words from James Blunt, Jack, it's got to go. Didn't cut it
Yeah.
this season.
Yeah, this was his huge opportunity, and we spoke a lot about it, I think, in the season player rankings. If you haven't checked out that video yet, everybody. George Abbott, I decided to mix in some of the younger kids, Dave. Thoughts on him? Is he even, because you know better than me, is he more under 21 still? Let him kind of cook there? Or could you think he's good enough to find a loan spell for him?
Look, Jack, he's actually had a very good season for Tottenham Hotspur under 21s this season. He's still on the young side, Jack. For me, I'd look to loan him out. I don't think he'll make the grade up into the first team. The only other thing I think they might do is maybe keep him in the under 21 setup next season. But I feel like he could probably go out on loan.
Yeah, he might be good enough now because he's one of the better players in that academy, if I'm not mistaken. Alfie Dorrington, Dave, keep or loan? Because I think he's probably too good for the under 21s, right? But is he ready to step into the first team and get minutes?
I would say interesting that they chose not to loan him out this season and they chose to loan out Ashley Phillips. And look, he's still on the very young side of the under 21s. But you know what, for me, Jack, I have a sneaky suspicion he might be kept around next season, especially in
Hmm.
terms of the homegrown quote on players trained by the academy. I think he's going to be kept.
Yeah, and he does play on the left, right? Very often,
Mm,
Alfie Dorrington, so he could be seen as
could
one of the backups to Mickey Van de Ven. You hope it's maybe not the only backup to Mickey Van de Ven, but he could be one of them.
I think he's done himself justice this season, Jack. He's played at left sided centre back using his left foot, played at right sided centre back using his right foot, distributing the ball. I would maybe look at maybe an understudy to a Doji next season.
Wow. There you go. High praise from Dave. Basuma, obvious keep there. Plenty of people will put him in a sell, though, Dave. And do you see where they're coming from? I don't think we do when it comes to that. I think he's not in any way played that poorly that he'd be worth selling. I think you definitely keep him.
Probably should have mentioned this at the start, Jack. I know there's a lot of outrage about the season, and to a certain degree, but we're not going to sell everybody, right? There has to be some sort of, balance here. And for me, he's nowhere near on the chopping block. He stays.
Definitely. Jamie Donnelly, I'm in the keep category, Dave. I think he could offer really good competition for that number 10 spot. Do you agree with me?
I worry about this. I think we should keep him and develop him in around the first team. I think you loan him out. I think potentially you might lose the player. I think you got to keep him in and around the squad. And the reason why I say lose the player, not because of his attitude or anything like that, but a lot of our best players get swamped up out on loan moves. I think the club will keep him around, and I think he'll feature next season.
You also wonder with a guy of his quality, a guy of his talent and ability, does he really need to play in League One or something like that to learn the ropes? Maybe he doesn't. He's so good that he actually should be playing around better quality players. It could make him worse to play around, a
Yeah,
get it launched, kind of system or something like that. And
yeah,
I'd say something similar about Mikey Moore as well. Kulusevski, I think it's still a keep, Dave. And I think even if you wanted to sell him, you kind of forced to keep him because we just made it permanent.
yeah. We just made it permanent in the summer. He ain't going anywhere. He's staying.
Dane Scarlett, loan again? Sell? Hard.
I think he'll go out on loan next season. But if he doesn't have a good loan spell, I think the following season he'll be in the sell category.
I think he's got to also go to a league again, like the Eredivisie or
Yeah.
something like that, like a parrot loan. But I do feel bad for Dane because it feels like we've just gotten it wrong every time when it comes to the destinations that we've given him.
Yeah.
And it's probably been mixed with being unlucky with managerial changes, clubs just needing to survive, not using the young loan players, that sort of thing. So I do feel
Mm.
very bad for him. I don't think it's really all his fault. Dragoshin, I think obviously a keep there.
Yeah.
Jet
He'll
Spence.
stay around. Yeah. Stay
Jet
around.
Spence sell.
He's gone. He'll be gone. Do you know I have a buy option in the deal? It's not mandatory, but I think they might take it up. I think it's only like 10 odd million, so I think they'll take it.
Interesting. I wonder if they have the money even to kind of spend on a guy like that, though, and whether they even liked him that much to spend money on him.
Mm.
I wonder if he'll struggle again, actually, to sell him. I have a sneaky suspicion we might struggle to sell him again, despite might be more loan spells. Tyrese Hall. Now, Dave, this is one where I do think we keep in the academy, right? And he's just too young to even be sent out on loan, if I'm not mistaken.
Again, he's another one I don't think you need to send out on loan, Jack. I think you got to keep him around the high quality and the players that we've got in around the first team. And I think, again, maybe like a Dorrington and a Donnelly will be a hybrid between the academy and the senior team next season.
Ashley Phillips, this is a tough one. Is that also a keep with the Dorrington, or should he be loaned out again?
Interesting, Jack, because obviously I've done the video with the Plymouth fan. If people
Right.
haven't, check it out. He says potentially, send them out on loan again. But for me, I don't think so. We're not going to sign a load of centre backs or a load of defenders this summer. So for me, I think he stays around. I think he had a very good loan spell at Plymouth. I know that they have inquired about taking them back, but I think he stays around this summer. I do believe that.
He was really good. Sadly you missed it, but he was really good in that Newcastle friendly. Like very good. Probably the best, I'd say, of any of the players that came on
Wow.
of the younger talents. Like Donnelly, Hall, they looked fine, but I think they had that sort of touch of nervousness actually, maybe slightly about them, which totally makes sense. Whereas Phillips, like I was kind of
Mm.
blown away. Like he actually looked way too ready for that sort of just that game speed. Maybe because he was playing in the championship where it's just so much more intense. But yeah, maybe another loan spell just to keep him going. But Dave has gone for a keep.
Yeah.
Callum Olasesi. I just thought he's another really talented player, but I think he's like Mikey Moore, just way too young to even be thinking about kind of sending out on a loan. I think you
Yeah.
just keep him in the academy, let him cook. Same thing with Mikey Moore, right, Dave? Keep.
No, he'll be kept around. There's a reason why he's been up with the senior team for the last few weeks of the season. He'll be kept around.
James Madison, I think, will be kept. Of course, Ben Davies. This is the sell, and we probably put him in the sell category the last 3 years. That's why I was joking to you earlier about. I think we do sometimes feel like something will happen, but it never seems to. Dave, Ben Davies, will it finally happen? Could he be sold this summer?
I think it needs to happen. I think, you've got the emergence of Phillips, Dorrington, people like that coming through. If you want to pave the way, I think it's only right to sell him. However, because of all the off-field work he does and the charity work and stuff like that, I fear he might be kept again.
Oh no. Well, we'll still put him in the sell category though. Mickey Van de Ven, another keep. Sergio Region, I think he's going to sadly fall in a sell. You and I have always fought for him. You and I have always at least had a soft spot for him and felt like he has been maybe just unfairly criticized, really, whether he is going to be sold or not, just kind of criticized, maybe harshly. But I think he is going to be sold. And he had a good little cameo or a little stretch with Brentford there. You think that someone should be interested to make it permanent?
Yeah, I think we will sell him. I think it's a shame. I think we should have kept him around as the Destiny Adoji's understudy this season. I think he's actually had a very good campaign at Brentford. He's got a lot of assists to his name. He's delivered a lot of good crosses into the box, and maybe you could argue that's what we need in this team. But unfortunately, I think he will be sold, Jack.
This is really a trigger people. I'd say towards the tail end of this season, he would have easily been our best crosser of the
Yeah.
ball.
Yep.
Actually, that's how highly I rank Regions. I don't rate him defensively very much. I agree with people. He can hurt you. Just when it comes to going forward, and he gets down that byline. He's very
Mm.
good at picking people out. It's not by mistake. He really picks people out. Romero, another keep. Hoiberg, I think we all know this is a sell because he's pretty much declared himself to be on the market, Mr. Hoiberg.
Yeah.
But some people think there is a slight chance Ange might try to convince him to stay. Do you think he's going to be sold?
Look, Jack, I remember bringing it up before the January transfer window. Ange Postecoglou sat down and tried to convince him to stay and stuff like that. Hoiberg himself feels like it's time that, it's come for him to move on and he wants out himself. He's the one driving this. I know Ange Postecoglou has sat down and spoke to him, trying to convince him to stay, but he doesn't want to.
Emerson Royale, this is a hard one. I said in my video to the members about my priority signings that I think Emerson will eventually be sold. I'm just not sure if it's going to happen this summer because I felt like, yes, Spurs should be going for a backup fullback, but it should be absolute priority left back, backup fullback. Maybe a backup fullback for Pedro Porro, not as desperately necessary as it is on the left side. I know people don't like that sort of terminology, that sort of right thinking because it should all be priorities, should all be done, right? I get it. But I wonder if Emerson's going to stick around for one more year.
Look, Jack, I remember when Conte came in that whole summer, Emerson was the first name on everyone's lips, the first name in the papers to be linked with a move away. It didn't happen. I think the exact same thing's going to happen here. I think managers actually trust him as being in and around the squad, as a backup and stuff like that. So controversially, I think he'll stay.
Yeah, if he's only going to be used as a right back or he probably won't even need to be deputizing as a center back anymore. So he just will be seen as that right back. And maybe Ange likes something. He offers something very different to Pedro Porro, we know as well, right? So I wonder if Ange might see that
Yeah,
as a good advantage. Pop Matasar, another
stay.
keep. That's something we should throw to the members, by the way, as a poll. The Emerson keep or sell. I really wonder what the poll will be. I wonder if we'll be surprised. Jude Suits Up Bell, because I'd expect sell, but I wonder if we'll be surprised. June Suits Up Bell, Dave. I'm not sure of his age, but is he maybe a loan?
I think he'll get a loan move this summer. I think that's where he's at. I think, though, I think he has to go and have a really good loan move. If not, I think he could be sold the following summer.
Yeah. He also, I'd say, it's hard to know whether it's like the English, you know, kind of lower divisions of, the championship or League One is best for him, or is it also kind of an abroad move might actually be better for him? It's hard to know. It's hard
One
to
thing
know.
I'll give him credit for just quickly, Jack, is he was brought in here as a striker and played the majority of the season out on the right wing. So, and he's adapted, so I wouldn't write him off yet.
It's very technical, the way he plays. He has that good kind of, close control about his
Mm.
game. Gio Lo Celso, think this is finally a sell.
Yeah,
Just think it's
no
very
debate.
obvious, even whether we had an opinion. I think we would double down on it with Ange, but I think Ange very much wants to sell him as well. Brandon Austin, that's just funny, Dave, because will one of Whiteman or Brandon Austin go? Will one of them leave?
One of
Surely.
them will go, one of them will stay. Do you know what I think? I just have a sneaky suspicion Whiteman will be kept around, but I actually think Brandon Austin probably deserves to be kept around over Alfie Whiteman. I think Brandon Austin will be sold.
Yeah, that's what I think too. You wonder, like, Brandon Austin seems to play ahead of Whiteman, anyways. So I just wonder what that's about, and if that means then Austin could get at any point he wants that move away. that would be your chance. Whereas Whiteman just seems very content as being like the third, fourth, fifth.
Yeah,
He likes the Scott Carson role.
he loves it.
Richarlison, I think, is a keep. Plenty of people would like to sell. I think you're just making your job so much harder and your life so much harder this summer by doing so, Dave. I get it. Like maybe some of the frustrations about him, I can hear them. I'll listen to them. But the guy still was our second highest contributor in the goals department this season. And when it comes to goals and assists as well, he still picked up 4 assists. He showed to be very useful. He's the target man, offers something very different, works very hard off of the ball as well. I thought he had a good season. It's a keep for me. I think it's what is it? What was the team of Werner? What was the logic? No brainer. It's a no brainer day for me. It's a keep.
Look, for me, when it comes to Richarlison, I don't understand why people are trying to sell him. I genuinely don't understand it, Jack. We're competing on 4 fronts next season, which means we need a very good squad. And for me, you need 2 strikers. And if you can get 2 of quality in here, that's what we need. Richarlison is the only other player outside Son to score double figures. We sold Harry Kane last season, and we're going to sell another player that gets us into double figures this season. Where is it going to leave us? For me, the obvious option is you keep Richarlison, you bring in another striker. Simple. It shouldn't even be a conversation.
I love it. Bentancur, Dave, I think it's a keep, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I'd be curious if someone in the comments, let me know if there's a hot opinion about Bentancur. Lancashire, I think, Dave, a loan move would be very good for him at this point, right? Because he scored so many goals in the under 21s. But as you would probably point out, he has occasionally that problem with consistent finishing and consistent clinical edge. And you only can learn that and develop that with more opportunities, more experience at a higher level. So, right, when you lean towards loan,
I think the obvious move is with the amount of goals he scored for the season for the Premier for the under 21s, and I believe he's also a bad player this season as well, for the Premier League too. So for me, I think the next obvious step is a loan move for him. I think where he needs to learn is become a lot more clinical, and I think the only way he really will learn that and start to be more switched on to that is when he's playing in football where the misses actually really matter, because in the under 21s you sort of get away with it because you know the next 4 or 5 are coming, whereas at senior level you only get 1 or 2 and you got to take them. So I think the loan move will be the right next step for Will Lancashire.
I'm not too worried about actually where he gets loaned to. It's more just whether he gets played, right? That's the only thing
Yeah.
I get worried about. But I'm not too worried about the league or the destination or anything like that. Whereas with other players I might be, but with
Mm.
him, he's so physical that I think he could easily try to learn the ropes and maybe a lesser quality and talented division like League One or something like that. Of course, there are plenty of young talents, right? Also learning their craft in League One, but I actually think he'd do quite well there because he's
He's
such a physical guy, right, Dave?
his all round game is actually superb as a striker. Hold up player, running in behind, winning balls. Being a target man, finishing. He's like
English striker.
yeah, he's got all the attributes. I think this is one that Tottenham are really going to look to develop. I'm not going to say he can be the next Harry Kane, but if you look at any of the young strikers we have out there, because I don't consider Donnelly a striker anymore, I consider him more of that goal scoring playmaker. To be brutally honest, I think he's the next guy off the rank that could, get somewhere near that level if he really, knuckled down in the finishing department. Because I think that's where he really needs to improve, Jack, if he wants to make the grade.
I wonder if I'm not sure if he's championship ready, but I wonder if like an Oxford United or someone who just got promoted to the championship or something like that would not be a bad choice for him.
Mm,
Because like you just said, he has all the attributes of that typical number 9. So I just
mm,
I'm not that worried about his ability to handle the physicality or being bullied or anything like that. I
yeah.
think he'd do well with that. I think he would actually relish in it. It's just about who will play him and who will give him minutes and who will trust him. That's all that really matters.
You're absolutely spot on there. I think, and this is where I think he has a better chance than someone like Dane Scarlett, Troy Parrott, people like that, because of, like you said, the physicality, being able to play with his back to goal and stuff like that. That's why I feel like he's got a better chance of making it.
Pedro Porro, obvious keep. Joe Rodon, he's going to be, thankfully, a loan spell that has gone very well. He challenged himself. He put his career back on track. I think that we can appreciate that about Joe Rodon, actually. There's no real shame, I think, with this guy. He got moved to Spurs, was never the right move for him. I think his agent really should, probably look at himself there, really, for even kind of getting that move going, because he was never really going to get the minutes that he might have felt like he deserved, or even that he was probably good enough for. Because I think he showed he's just not really good enough for our level. But he's also a guy that clearly wants to play, and he took this loan spell well and has gone easily earned himself a move to a Premier League club of some sort. I think for next season, it's probably going to be Leeds, but it could be another promoted team, I'd imagine.
Look, it might not be Leeds, Jack. I know they're trying to strike a deal with Tottenham, but it's a weird one because they never really put a proper buy option into the loan spell. So, they have to compete with all the rest of the clubs that are interested in Joe Rodon off the back of the season he's had, because he's had a really good season. So there's going to be a lot of interest, and he will definitely be one that will be sold. But I wouldn't 100% write it to Leeds just yet.
I always like it to see when you make your life a lot easier when someone has a good loan spell, and then you just know that there will be suitors and there
Yeah.
will be buyers. Fraser Forster, as much as I'd say sell or get rid, I'm not sure they will. Spurs. I think they're
Look,
just going to keep him until the remaining of the contract or something.
backup keeper isn't a priority on the list right now. It's a pointless exercise this summer. If you don't want to go with Fraser Forster, you bring through a Gunter or a Keeley, someone like that. But however, Fraser Forster signed an extension to his deal, which keeps him here next season, which tells me the club ain't going to look to do that until next summer.
Yeah, they're definitely taking their time. Brendan Johnson, another keep as
Yeah,
well. Sessegnon, I mean, again,
gone.
I'm trying to remember how to say his name correctly, but this guy is got to be a sell. Will they be able to sell him, or will it be more a loan?
I think it could be a time where you pay out the remainder of the contract, Jack, to be
Wow.
brutally honest, and you sort of free him up and let him go and, kickstart his career somewhere else.
I think that'd be very wise of Spurs to do that. Will they do that? Not so sure. I think it probably will end up in some sort of loan or something that doesn't make sense. Skip, I'd say this is a loan or a sell, Dave.
Part of me makes me. Do you know what, Jack? I've said this a number of times with Skip. I don't think he's good enough for Tottenham, but I also think he's going to be used as a pawn in Tottenham's homegrown quota for Premier League and European registration. And on that basis, sadly, I think he's going to be kept, even though I think he should be sold. I don't think there's any sort of any value in us loaning him out anywhere. The kid's 23 years of age now. So for me, I think it's got to be sell. But sadly, I think they're going to keep him and use him as a pawn.
Well, Dave thinks he's going to be kept, but I think we will put him in the sell category there. It's just obviously what Ange thinks of him. Ange doesn't think of him as someone that's actually good enough to really be challenging in this first team. There were so many times when he was left on, out of the squad entirely without really any injury explanation, for much of those games.
And just
Sonny, yeah, go ahead.
Just one more thing I'd add, Jack. Postecoglou has tinkered with that midfield tree more than any other department he has across the back line or the forward line. And Ollie Skip has still been left out of the majority of them. So that probably shows you what he thinks of them.
Sonny, that's a keep for me. It's Richarlison argument of selling. Dave and I were obviously very adamant against. It's the same argument for Sonny for me times 10. It's like times like double the intensity of my just complete bewilderment with anybody who wants to sell either of those two this summer. I mean, again, I think Dave and I are always very respectful of people who have a different opinion than us, but I am bewildered of anybody who wants to sell Sonny this summer.
I understand the opinion of, at what point do you cash in over in terms of what sort of value you can recoup compared to, the decline. I get that conversation is going to start happening. But for me, I think it's way too soon. What you cannot do is sell your biggest creator and goal scorer from one summer and then double down on the next summer and sell the other only world-class forward player you have in your forward line. Being brutally honest, I can't even believe it's a discussion, but let's move on.
Solomon, he hasn't featured at all. He's been injured the entirety of the time. Some people think he will be sold this summer.
It's a shame because, like you, Jack, I've seen a bit of him at Shakhtar Donetsk, and I think there's a real talent there. However, didn't stay fit this season, wasn't fit for Fulham last season. I think he's had his final crack at the Premier League. I think he'll be sold.
Yeah, I think that's the big fear is he probably has shown to be injury prone. And even in my scout report, I remember when we first bought him, I did say that.
Yeah,
Like
you
that's
did.
what's something that has followed his career for some reason. Even at Shakhtar was injury prone, which is just crazy. Tanganga, he probably is going to be sold, if not is already sold. Dave and I were saying to each other in the background, like, has he been sold? I think he has to Millwall, but Spurs are in the middle of negotiations if it hasn't been done already. Tanguy and Ndombele, another
Oh,
sell, obvious, but
yeah.
is it even going to happen, Dave? That's the real question. Is it even going to
Look,
happen?
we're not going to get any value for this guy. There's two options this summer. You either loan him out for the last year of his contract and let him go for free next summer, or you just offer him up a certain percentage of what he's owed and say, take it or leave it and go and do something else, go and work at McDonald's or something like that. Sad because, you know what, Jack? To be fair to the guy, he's got all the talent in the world, but he doesn't want to use it. And for me, you got to get rid of him. You can't have that around the club. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely. You still look at some of the comps and things that he had when he was, in
Yeah,
shape and at his best level. The dude is just definition of world class ability. It's just doesn't have world class mentality. Nothing even close.
yeah.
Not even class mentality. Just the worst of mentalities. Um, but Tanguy, yeah, definitely sold. I'm not sure if it happens. I think it's just Spurs just have to do the hardcore math and accounting and just realize what is the cheaper option. Is it just to loan him out to whatever club that will take him for one more year, or is it better? Is it cheaper to just get rid? Because obviously he's not going to be in the squad, so they won't have to register him.
Mm.
It's just what is the cheaper option, I guess, is maybe from
The
here on out.
the only problem we have with this though, Jack, is clubs are going to leave it to the very last minute to try and get a loan deal out of Tanganga or out of Tanguy and Ndombele, trying to force Tottenham's arm, which means then we'll have to bring them on preseason like we did last preseason. It's a fruitless exercise for me. You just got to rip up the contract, be done with it.
Yeah, it's like an unnecessary seat on the plane that you're just, filling for no reason at all. I agree with you there. Udoji,
Keep.
obvious keep. Timo Werner, I think is a sell. It's not like we really had him. It's just I don't think he ended up being the no-brainer that some people thought he would be. And yes, he had. I've been kinder to him than maybe others have, just because I think he ended up not embarrassing himself too much. But even by me saying it like that, I think we're obviously suggesting that he's not really good enough for this level by me saying he didn't embarrass himself.
Yeah.
That's sort of the standard. But yeah, Dave, I think we're not making it permanent.
Look, if you're going for a striker, he's not what you need, and if you're going for a winger, there's 10 times better out there. So for me, I think you
Well said.
just let him sort his career out.
Well said. Vicario is a keep, absolute crack man, and Alfie Whiteman is a sell for me. I just don't see the reason of having him around because you can't promote a Keeley or you can't promote a Gunter, right? To learn under Vicario and train behind him and take one of those roles up. But you said he is going to be kept, which I agree. Actually, that was my logic too. Was
Yeah.
one of those two is going to be kept, but obvious sell.
What I'd like us to see is sort of book the trend when it comes to this third keeper and use him to train with the senior squad day in, day out, but then let him play the under 21 games so he actually is getting game time under his belt. And you can do that with a Gunter or
I
a
agree.
Josh Keeley to a degree, and sort of get rid of Whiteman. And, these guys are 20, Brandon Austin, these guys are 24, 25, and I've had one loan move. You know what I mean? It's like they shouldn't be around this football club. The fact that they're here is mind boggling. But one of them's going to have to be kept around as third choice because I have a feeling that they'll keep them around for another year or two and let Gunter and Keeley develop out on loan.
Alfie Whiteman has played for more DJ clubs than he has for more different football clubs. It feels like in the times that he's been here. Iago Santiago, Dave. I think this is not a loan, but a sell. I was wondering if you would agree, and people might be very surprised to hear us even saying that. Would you care to give them an explanation?
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of people that have maybe mentioned his name to me as one that could come true, Jack. For me, he's on the older side of the under 21s compared to the likes of a Hall, a Donnelly, people like that. And I'd argue they've stepped up and had a lot more influence in the games than Santiago has, especially in some of the big games recently. I feel like Santiago is one of the older guys, has probably gone hiding in some of the games, which I did not like. And I just feel if he hasn't been given his opportunity already, I don't think it's going to come. He's got 1 year left on his contract, and the decision has to be made this summer. I think if there was an option on the table for him to sign, I think he would have already signed it by now. We've already handed out Hall a 5 year contract and stuff like that. So on that basis, I think he's gone this summer. I think he'd be sold. You're not going to get fortune for him, but I think he'd be sold.
Yeah, I think he's just in the older bracket, and maybe not everybody realizes that or understands that he's actually a lot older than some of the other under
Mm,
21 academy kids, and he needs to either be upgraded to the first team or kind of just
mm,
loaned out or sold really. And I just don't know if he's actually shown
mm.
to be really good enough to actually be challenging some of the wingers at this level. And we'll need some just a loan or just a new opportunity someplace else. I think
Yeah.
he will land himself at a good club at one point in his career. He is a good player. He's just not really ready to make that amazing step up. I don't think we even appreciate how incredible it is to be that good to make that step up, but he's just not there yet.
No.
And we'll need more time. I agree with you there, Dave. Any other changes that you would make that you maybe see on? I hit my mic there, Dave. Sorry, but I was just finish my sentence and say that any other changes that you would make quickly before we wrap things up?
No, I don't think there's any changes that I would make. I think it's pretty fair. What I will say is, you look at the amount of players that we have to sell, Jack. It's quite daunting. How many of them can we realistically get out the door? Let's wait and see. But I'd argue it could be done. Some of them aren't. Some of them you could just pay off their contracts. And get them out like Austin Whiteman. Not going to cost you a fortune. So let's wait and see what happens. But the ones you could sell could probably easily add another 100 million to the transfer kitty for us to really rejuvenate this squad. So hopefully we can get it done. Big summer ahead.
I've heard some people say as many as 13 players they could see being sold this summer. I think right here we have around, what is that, 18?
16?
I think it's 18 because I think it's 8 on each row there. So then add the 2 at the bottom there. I think it'd be 18 unless my math is wrong. So that'd be a lot of players. And I don't see that all happening this summer. So which ones will be kept? Which ones will actually remain? Let us know in the comments, please. Hit that like button as well. Do check out our season player ratings too if you haven't already. Feel free to become a member because there will be plenty of stuff for you exclusively throughout this summer. Plenty more content coming your way, this kind of transition into the summer type of content, as well as season wrap-ups, that sort of stuff as well. Really appreciate all of you guys. We'll leave you there. Come on, you Spurs. In the big Ange we trust. We never stop. See you next time. Everywhere we go.